Turn it up. Is it set to cold?
There's some kid in one of my classes that as soon as he walks in, he cranks it all the way down.
Yeah, what is with that? Every room I've been in, like somebody's cranked it all the way to the bottom. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
I do it the opposite. I like turn it all the way
Yeah.
up. And Aunt Savannah would always be like, who keeps turning up the heat? It's me.
Yeah.
I noticed it in one class. I had like back-to-back classes with him, and I was walking behind him again, and he just like walked in one motion, just flipped it all the way.
Yeah, that's not cool. Not in this building.
Seems to be cold much faster.
Yeah. Very true.
All right.
Alright, should we start it? Oh, you already started it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can cut out.
No,
the
that's
first
okay.
one.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Stan Starr's attorney.
I'm Alan Hacker's attorney.
Thanks for meeting with me this morning. Well, before we start talking about the company, I was hoping that we can discuss a few of the personal issues that Starr and Hacker are having currently, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
So Starr wanted me to give, off the bat his apology. He realizes that Hacker works really hard and he loves to design, and Starr really admires the work that he does. And he understands that Hacker might have felt a little insulted and not appreciated when he gave forth his design ideas, and he realizes that he didn't act the way that he should have in accepting those ideas that Hacker suggested. That being said, Starr also feels that there are some things that he would like to discuss in terms of how he feels a little bit taken advantage of by Hacker, because he gave up, I think it was around $100,000 that he gave up front for the company, 65 and then an additional 30 later on.
Mm-hmm.
And he just feels that Hacker kind of takes advantage of that by kind of putting that on the back burner, doesn't realize that was a lot of money, and Starr just would like a little bit more transparency in what Hacker I'm sorry. I think it's just the film. Yeah.
There's gonna be a big gap in
Yes.
at like the 3-minute mark. It's just gonna go black.
It's just like the film. Okay. So Starr just feels that Hacker, wasn't as transparent as he could have been by telling him, I'm going to go ahead with this project, and he sort of went behind his back, and so Starr just kind of feels that he's using his money but not really involving him on the company decisions. So that's basically what he wanted to get out of the way initially, were just those kind of personal problems.
And I think that Hacker reflects kind of the same sentiments. That fight was, there was a lot of kind of things that were said that could be taken back, and I think Hacker feels equally as bad about that kind of aspect of it. And at the same time, I think it makes sense where Stanley Starr is coming from. He did invest a lot of money, and Alan is trying his best to kind of do what's best for the company. But I think where they're at right now, maybe that's not the best place for the company, and that we would like to kind of make a change so that not only are we solving this problem today, but kind of heading off any of these problems moving forward. So we understand that Starr has an issue with kind of the development that Hacker was doing, and we just want to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again.
Exactly. Yep. No, I really can sympathize with what you're saying. Starr wants to stay in the company if that's something that Hacker would.
I think that's one of our main interests, is that we'd like to keep the company together.
Right.
We have no kind of intention of dissolving Hacker.
Right. But in order for the company to flourish, there needs to be some adjustments with the contractual language and just moving forward how we're going to deal with both hackers' design freedom really, and producing the products that he wants to produce because that's what he's most interested in, and he should do just that because that's what he's best at. With that being said, though, Star is concerned that if Hacker were to also manage the sales, there just wouldn't be adequate time being put forth to that kind of management. He's investing most of his time and energy in developing products, which he should do. He loves that. But there needs to be another individual, perhaps, helping managing the sales.
I think that that's a great idea. I know that one of Alan's big concerns is that he enjoys, he enjoys creating, he enjoys research and development, but at the same time, he wants to be able to market these products in a way that will make them popular. And I don't think he feels that like right now he has enough time to do both. And I think kind of bringing someone else into the fold to take care of not only the expenses of marketing and advertising, but the kind of time that takes away from Alan's design would be something that we're very interested in.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think Star feels the exact same way. So would a hacker be comfortable with hiring somebody to make these decisions, or?
I believe so. As of right now, the Gates company that has proposed the royalty cut for Hacker's Power Screen has also put forth interest in investing in the company, and we were kind of wondering if Star would be comfortable with bringing them on as kind of an investor to take away most of the marketing duties and kind of shift all of that responsibility onto them while kind of having a share in the company's profits at the same time. Because we believe that with Alan designing products, he's going to be designing better products, be designing more products, and with another company, Gates, or a different company that we could bring in, we could devote a lot of time, energy, money towards the marketability of them and really drive up the sales of the products, which would probably be best for everyone.
Right. I do think that Star would be open to that. Another suggestion is, well, actually, let's first get to the topic of Power Screen.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big questions here is, who does Power Screen belong to? Does it belong to Hacker individually and his backers, or does it belong to Hacker Star, the company? I know that Hacker is a little apprehensive, from my understanding, to let those profits from that Power Screen go to the company because Star wasn't jumping on board with the idea right away. Is that correct, that understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So Star wanted me to suggest, well, first he wanted to get to the point of the contract. I know that the language is a little ambiguous, but there was a covenant not to compete, and we're pretty sure that a trial would honor that language, and they would see that, or the judge would see that this kind of these negotiations with these backers would kind of be going against the contractual language in that regard. That being said, I do think that Star is very open-minded to having other people join the company. But first we need to talk about Power Screen and where those funds are going to go. Are they going to go towards that company? Otherwise, yes, Star said that he could take perhaps, not Star, but Star would give Hacker 10 to 15% of the royalties that Power Screen makes.
Okay. I think as of right now, with the way that Hacker has gone about this, we disagree with the fact that Star believes that he's competing directly with the company. But I think that problem is kind of dwarfed by the kind of greater problem of moving forward, where kind of heading off these problems in the future. while I think that Hacker definitely, or Star definitely has some standing, at least with the employment agreement, and there's some ambiguity that needs to be resolved, I think it would be better to resolve it amongst ourselves rather than trying to take it to court. We don't want to go to court, and there's really no guarantee that the court will find that Hacker competed with us. So I think where we're at right now is that if we can kind of come up with a way for the company as a whole to benefit from this, we would be more comfortable making sure that Allen's products now and moving forward belong to the company, as long as he's being compensated well and being given the freedom to kind of design at his own pace. And,
Right. So would Hacker be willing to make the concession that PowerScreen revenue goes to the company and not directly to him and the backers? Moving forward, I think that it would be best interest of both of them to agree at least on those terms and then work out, you know, a better plan of action so that we don't come to this kind of problem again in the future. So there would have to be some kind of clear understanding that any product or design, and again, that would be his sole job, he wouldn't be doing sales anymore, but any product and design that Hacker engages in would go to the company. That's current projects and future products, including PowerScreen.
Yes, I think that Allen would like to keep these products in the company, and I think that allowing him to use the company's resources and time moving forward would be best suited for his development and his research and development. So I think we are willing to make the concession right now that PowerScreen belongs to the company, but we would like Allen to still be compensated for kind of his time, his creativity, and we think that maybe a portion of the sales moving forward would work, or a raise in his base salary would work. But we think that if we're bringing in another investor, someone that's investing in the company and taking away those advertising expenses while promoting the product, we think that with that kind of profitability, Allen should be compensated.
I understand that, yeah. And I think that, you know, Star, he's a pretty stand-up guy, and I think that he'd be willing to give Hacker a percentage of those royalties. Well, first let's talk about these backers. Are they offering a large sum of money? Is it a real attractive offer, or is it something that Hacker and Star can move forward to together without those backers?
The thing is right now is that they haven't provided an offer yet, but they've expressed their interest in investing. So while the Gates Group may or may not move forward with the investment, we still feel like it would be in our best interest to find someone, even if it wasn't them, to take their kind of role as the marketing shareholder of the company.
Right. You know, I think that makes sense, and I think that Star would be willing to go that route. So, I'm thinking, in terms of the royalties, how much, or you don't know for sure how much the backers are wanting to offer for the, you know, in terms of the percentage of the product?
So the royalties we do.
Okay.
If they were to come in as kind of shareholders,
Yeah.
that would be a different story. It would belong to the company as a whole. But they do, we would like to decide if Gates Group does not come in as a shareholder, we do need to decide what will happen with the royalties. So they kind of broke it down in, you don't have this information, do you?
I don't.
Okay. It's not a lot up front. Right now, they've offered Allen kind of 5% up to the first $3,000.
Okay. First 3,000?
30,000.
30, okay. I'm just looking at the sales in the past to see if these numbers are realistic, I guess. But, okay.
That's not 30,000 units sold. That's the
The amount of money, yeah.
From 30 to 50, they're offering 7.5.
Okay.
From 50 to 75, they're offering 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then anything above 75, they're offering 12.
Now the reason why this is attractive is because, I mean, looking for, in regards to Star's best interests, there won't be any kind of royalties coming out of his pocket for this product. It would be the backers that are giving him the royalties. So he'd be making that money. But you don't know that these numbers stand or these percentages stand if
That is a firm offer. So
that is firm, okay.
The royalty numbers they've discussed.
So this is regardless of whether or not they are okay. So this is something we'd have to suggest to them that they join the company.
They've expressed interest, so we would have to work with them.
Okay.
We would like to kind of come up with like a package deal for the Gates Group to consider investing in the company.
Okay.
Kind of with the both of us. Now
Gates, do they have some kind of specialization with managing sales?
They're setting up a software supermarketing firm. So basically what they would do is kind of cover the aspects of marketing. So getting the product name out there, the advertising for it, all that kind of stuff.
Well, it seems like they'd be a really good resource for the company then.
And right now we've spent over 6 years, a little over $900,000 in advertising.
Yeah.
And to kind of direct those expenses away from the two of us and put that on a different company, I feel like that would be in our best interest.
I think that would work for us as well. I mean,
but then the kind of caveat to that is we would be splitting the profits. But if we're making more money, I think we're
right. And I just think that the business as a whole would function better and more smoothly to have different jobs assigned to different people.
Yeah, rather than try and have, Alan design and market at the same time. I feel like that's just making both of them mad because Stan doesn't feel like Alan's devoting enough time to marketing. Alan doesn't feel like he's devoting enough time to his software development. So
right.
I think definitely bringing someone else in would be ideal.
Okay, well, I think that we should see what Gates is willing to do. But I mean, are we okay to make that decision right now to let Gates into the company?
I think we can. We'd have to discuss how they come to them.
Okay.
Because right now we've kind of got a 50-50 share in the corporation, and we could kind of bring them in a similar manner to Stan's investment in the company as like a debt investor, or we could.
Yeah, I'm wondering what role they would play, or would they be primarily sales and management?
They'd be in a market. So I think we would still retain kind of the people on our payroll as far as the sales go. So Jim. I think we would still retain Jim as our sales representative. I think the only kind of difference we would make is we would cut out the David Marks advertising agency.
I see, okay.
Because if we have a marketing partner, I think they would be able to take care of not only the marketing aspect, but advertising is kind of a piece of the marketing process.
Okay, yeah, and I did make a note here. You think that Jim is a essential part to the company right now if we were to hire or add Gates to the team?
I think so. I think Gates, while they would do well in getting the product name out there
Yeah.
from a marketing standpoint, I don't think they're kind of boots on the ground selling. Which
Okay.
I think Jim he's our sales representative, and he's kind of the guy who
Okay.
all the sales are running through.
So Gates does more advertising.
It's kind of every step in the marketing process, I guess, for
Okay.
the marketing firm. So
Okay.
kind of getting the brand recognition out there. I know that was one of Alan's big issues up front, is that he feels like we didn't invest enough right off the bat in kind of the advertising aspect of it. And I know even Stan was kind of harping on him early about kind of getting out. His time might be better spent on marketing. So
Okay.
I think that they would take care of. And it seems like Stan has also kind of been reluctant to pay kind of out of the company's pocket for advertising in the past. So I think this kind of solves the Stan's concern that not enough time is being spent on the marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And at the same time, we're kind of taking those advertising expenses away, but we're sharing in the profits.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So then we should see how Gates wants to join the company, but I think that would be a great addition. As far as Hacker's role is concerned, should we write a clause into the contract saying that he will only be working within the research and design aspects of the company?
I think he would like to retain his position as the general manager.
Okay, but we should edit what that job entails.
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess right now it kind of lists several things. The purchase, installation, supervision of equipment. I think that still should be something that, as the designer, you should retain. The employing and discharging employees. I think as someone who's in the office every day, I think that's something you should retain. But the design, placement, and evaluation of advertising, that might need to go.
Right. What number is this in the contract?
3.
Okay, yeah, the duties here. Okay. And maybe the ambiguous term, any and all other duties, usually incident of those of the general manager. Okay. And I'm wondering if we should put a clause in for Stan, and his ability to kind of overlook the sales and have some kind of control over the sales if he feels that something's going wrong or that the company is not performing the way that they should.
As far as his ability to make like a unanimous decision.
And maybe he should be involved, or I don't know, with the Gates, I suppose. He's only concerned that he's open to the idea of Gates joining the company, but he's kind of concerned that he's going to lose his control, and he really wanted to be a part of this company. He feels like it's kind of slipping out of his fingers because you know, the decisions that are being made behind his back and involving new people, he kind of feels like he's becoming, you know,
that's completely understandable.
Yeah.
I kind of got that from kind of what he was conveying. Yeah, it is his kind of brainchild, so we do respect that he wants to be involved, and we want to keep him as involved as equally as everyone else. But we were kind of wondering if we do bring in the Gates group, kind of having either having them as a lower kind of shareholder than the two of us, and us maintaining equal power over them, or even bringing them in as kind of a third, and having that way we avoid kind of deadlock in instances like this where maybe, let's say, Alan has some boneheaded idea, it would be able to be overridden by the people marketing the product and Stan.
It would be like 3 branches, separation of 3
Kind
branches.
of, yeah. So we'd be able to decide things by majority, kind of avoiding that deadlock that comes with a 50-50 share.
Right. No, I think that's a good idea. So we could do the split in thirds in that way? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think that Stan, he seems to, he's been in the business for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to have a good grasp of what's, I mean,
He's
even
kind
though
of a business guy. He was a dentist. He knows how it all kind of
yeah, he's a
works.
businessman. From the marketing standpoint, that third party group they'll have a good idea of what's going to sell, what's not, and Alan will have kind of a good idea from the technical standpoint.
Yeah, okay. That's great, let's do that. And then also just, I noticed in the contract there was no like ethical or behavioral clause. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and you've worked with Hacker, I haven't, but from what I understand, he has a tendency to kind of name call and act out sometimes, maybe be a little irrational. And I'm sure he's a great guy, he's an intelligent, great designer, but we would feel a little bit more comfortable, I think, if we had some kind of clause in there that when something like that happens, or if it were to ever happen, there'd be some kind of management in that regard, how to deal with future problems.
What would that kind of look like?
I don't want to make gates, or let's see what other people are involved here. I don't know if we would have like an HR person, or I don't know. I mean, I'm open to creative ideas. Just if maybe we can have an arbitrator clause, or I'm not sure. Just an understanding that if there is to be a future dispute with Hacker, that there's a way to go about managing that. Gates is only a design firm, so I don't know. Do you have any suggestions?
No.
Yeah. I suppose we are avoiding those kind of emotional outbursts by having Hacker only do design and projects rather than the sales, because I think that's kind of the foundation of where the tension lied.
I think so too. I think kind of is one of Stan's interests that Hacker behave himself. Is that kind of the gist of it? I think that he would be. I mean, he expressed to me that his ideal world would just be him kind of being in control of the research and development process and not having to spend the kind of time and effort on the marketing aspect of things. So I think if we put him in that role, I'm not sure that
we'll have to think of an arbitration clause or anything like that in the future.
It might be a good idea too, just in case, but I'm not sure that it'll be good.
Sure, okay. Well, then let's rewrite the terms so that we do separate those roles. Hacker will be primarily, he'll continue with all the duties that are listed in the contract minus the evaluation of advertising and the placement of advertising. And for Star, he'll be mainly the business aspect of everything, kind of overseeing how sales are running. Maybe give him some authority to veto sale decisions. And then Gates would be primarily sales management and advertising. How does that sound to you?
Are we giving Hacker the sole kind of power to veto at his own will? Because,
Hacker?
or I mean, Star.
No, not in terms of design.
But
I don't
in
think
other aspects of
I mean, I'm just concerned that because Hacker doesn't have a great, business isn't really his thing.
Mhm.
We're just afraid that he's gonna expend a lot of the company's resources on products that the company can't afford. They're putting a lot of faith into Gates, hoping that they'll make a lot of money for us through their advertising, but we've never worked with them before. And so I'm just trying to kind of balance not giving Hacker sole power, but not giving Star sole power.
So it kind of seems like Stan wants to have a more active hand in the business.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that we can definitely kind of work out a way where he takes over some of the general manager responsibilities if he'd like to kind of take on some of those roles, freeing up Alan's time. While at the same time, I think that having the ability to kind of solely veto any decision might be a little too much power, especially if we're splitting the company into thirds. But if he expresses a concern, I think that it definitely is something that should be put to a vote by the three of them, kind of deciding if Stan has a general idea of what's good for business, Alan has a good idea of what's good for the design, and the marketing company has a good idea of what's marketing.
So if Star expresses a concern, he should voice that concern both to Hacker and to Gates, and that they should have, again, I think this is sort of the process that I was talking about managing conflict, because I can just see that happening in the future. So if Star seems to have an issue with what's going on business-wise with the company, he perhaps thinks Hacker's spending too much of the company's resources on building new products, and although he wants to support those products, he also wants to make sure that the company's doing well. He would express that concern to Hacker and to Gates, and then the three branches or the three parts of the company would come together and vote on the terms of the new project and how much money is going to be used for that project to stay within certain limits.
I think so.
Okay. So then, as general manager, Star will oversee projects and sales, and then will determine what kind of process they'll go through in order to vote, I guess. I'll just vote on projects and sales. Okay. All right. So where do you suggest we go from here?
I think we need to decide what happens in the event that Gates doesn't invest with us. I think that it would be in our best interest to find someone that would. But that still leaves us having to decide how to divide the royalties that Gates is providing for Power Spring.
Well, I think, if Gates chooses not to join the company, then I think that Star should just provide the royalties because he was willing to do that at a greater number, in fact, than Gates was. But again, that leaves sort of the issue of Hacker and Star, and we need to come to new terms as to how those two will deal with future problems, which means they probably have to hire a manager, a sales manager, so we could separate the roles.
So when you say Star would be willing to
provided that Hacker gives a promise and there's an understanding that current and future products that Hacker or programs that Hacker creates, those program to stay within the company.
Mhm.
If he promises that, then Star would be willing to give him 10% of the royalties, 10 to 15% of the royalties on Power Screen. Which, Hacker wouldn't be getting unless there was $50,000 to $75,000 sold from Gates.
Mhm. So we would be taking so let's say Gates doesn't invest with us.
Right.
We're taking their royalty offer and throwing it out
Right.
and doing it solely within the company.
Hmm. But under that condition, we'd have to hire a sales manager because we
Okay.
want to separate those three, I think, and that is a huge interest of Stars is to make sure that the sales are working the way that they should.
Right.
So whether or not that's Gates, and again, it was nice to have their equity in the company, but I understand that that's not a for sure bet. What we do have a little bit more control over is hiring somebody to make sure that those sales are going the way that they should, so that they function effectively.
Okay. How would you feel about cutting Alan in for 50% on Power Screen, keeping it within the company, and kind of using those terms moving forward for some of Alan's future designs, while hiring a third party?
Yeah, and I mean, that's also nice because Star and Hacker get more equity in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Gates wouldn't, the sales manager wouldn't have as big of a role as Gates would.
True. Hiring a third party though that kind of leaves us vulnerable to deadlock in the future though, because we'd still have 50%. You just have someone else on the table. But
Right.
I guess so. You're saying even though we would have the 50%, we would come to an agreement where we would have a three-way kind of split of power between those decisions.
Right.
Okay. I like that.
Okay. So then we should just eliminate Gates from the picture because it's sort of, we just don't know with Gates what they're gonna offer.
True. At the same time, if we hire in a sales, what is the term?
Sales manager. Professional sales manager.
So they would be kind of taking on the responsibility of the marketing aspect.
Which would be completely separate from Hacker. Star, I guess, would have some kind of lower view of it, but
still coming out of our pocket.
right.
So that's why I think Gates being an investor
Right.
and having them take on those expenses while sharing the profits might be a better decision, but
It's coming out of somewhere, either way.
yeah. Well, I think you're right. It is coming out somewhere. If we have an investor though, that's money coming into the company,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of taking on the responsibility of the marketing, and all of those expenses are their own. And then just the profits would be shared.
Right.
So while we would be sharing profits with one more company, rather than paying a salary to a sales manager,
Right.
I think it might be more profitable for us in the long run.
To hire a sales manager or to hire Gates. Or,
Not hire Gates, but allow them to invest.
Exactly. You think that's more profitable? It really just depends on how well the company does in the future.
I think so. But if they choose not to invest, I think that hiring a third party is certainly an alternative. But we have to
Right.
then we have to decide how much, Alan does have an issue with how much we're willing to spend on the marketing or the advertising right now because he feels like our name is being out there.
Right.
So we'd still be incurring those expenses and putting someone else on the payroll.
Do you know what kind of advertising he's interested in? Because I know that there's less expensive means of advertising.
He didn't really specify. He
I didn't have any information on what kind of advertising they did, but I mean, even if we were to have, have the sales manager to do things through social media or something that's really inexpensive for the company.
He just feels like Star isn't kind of grasping what it takes to get the branding out there to make some of these products profit.
Okay. And
Which
Bill
I
Gates-
think, yes, I think taking that out of Alan and Stan's hands and putting that into someone who does would be more profitable in the long run.
Sure. It just depends if that's Gates or sales manager, advertising sales manager.
So the sales manager would be internal. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So he would. So you're saying we give that guy full control of what we spend on advertising and all that stuff.
I was thinking.
That'd be expensive.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the Gates scenario is attractive just because they are putting their money into it, and so that's not something that the company right now has to worry about financially.
How would you feel about, instead of hiring internally a sales manager, seeking out an investor similar to Gates and kind of bringing someone in a Gates role, even if it wasn't Gates?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how difficult that process is or if it's guaranteed. Okay. So we want an investor no matter what.
We would prefer to have an investor, but I think that kind of as a...
I mean, it makes sense because otherwise we're going to be probably cutting expenses in other ways to hire a sales manager and for advertisements and things like that. So, and I know that advertising, I mean, I'm not personally somebody who advertises, but I know that that's an important thing for Hacker. So I'd like to save some expenses for that desire of his.
Yeah, and that's why I think having a third investor kind of takes those expenses out of our hands.
Right.
And yes, we are going to be sharing profits, but if we're more profitable as a company, I think that everyone kind of is going to make money and be successful in the long run.
And I think that this company has a bright future if we do separate those roles like that. And Hacker's doing only what he loves to do. Star's doing only what he loves to do, and they have a professional managing the other aspects of the company. So let's do what we initially talked about. Gates, at least, well, if Gates doesn't become part of the company, will Gates still give Hacker royalties?
If Gates doesn't become part of the company, we would rather take PowerScreen out of their hands, keep it within the company, and give Alan the 50% that stands out.
Okay. I see. So then that's really contingent as to whether Gates is going to join.
Investor.
Yeah.
That's one of it says in here that they're interested, but if they choose not to, we have to come up with a plan.
Right. Well, let's say they say they're interested and then they don't end up joining. And so here's the thing. Stan is kind of, I can see him getting angry because Hacker's getting all the revenue for his product. And then Gates is saying, okay, goodbye. And then there's still this issue between like where the product belongs or the revenue to from the product.
What was it? So
let's say Gates doesn't join the company.
They don't invest.
They don't invest, but they would still give Hacker the royalties to the product, right? To PowerScreen. I thought that's what you said, that they would still give the royalties
They have-
regardless.
They haven't offered yet.
Okay, so that's a for sure thing, right?
It could, but if Stan is willing to cut Alan in for 15% to keep Power Screen within the company and cut
Okay.
the Gates out entirely, we would rather do that.
Okay, and then in that scenario, we would look for an investor.
Yes.
Okay. So should we first go with the Gates inquiry and ask if that's something that they'd be willing to consider?
Yeah.
And then if that fails, then we'll just ignore their offer altogether with royalties?
Turn them down.
Okay.
Keep Power Screen in the company.
Uh-huh. Well, it's in
Alan-
the company even if, I just want to clarify, it's in the company even if Gates does join, right?
If Gates joins, yeah,
It stays in the
retained by
company. Okay. So no matter what direction we're headed, it stays in the company. It's just that Hacker gets a percentage of the royalties.
With the offer that they have on the table.
You saved it.
With the offer that they have on the table,
Uh-huh.
it's being removed from the company.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
well,
in Gates' name. So that's why we would rather retain it within the company and give Alan 15% of the royalties and leave Gates out altogether
okay.
if they don't join as an investor. If they join as an investor,
That
yeah,
is
it
the
stays in the company. So we basically have
company. Okay.
three options is we either bring them in as an investor,
Mhm.
the company itself owns it,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Alan gets cut in 15%.
Uh-huh. Those are the two options. Because Gates is never going to get 15%.
Right. If Gates,
If Gates is an investor, then the company at large, including Star,
everyone benefits from this.
everyone benefits, except the only difference really is that Hacker gets a certain percentage depending on the sales.
Mhm.
Up to at maximum 12.5, and that's if there's $75,000 worth of sales.
You're talking about
If Gates.
doesn't invest, but Alan agrees with him anyway.
Okay, this is my understanding. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
So it's either Gates joins as an investor, and only in that world does Alan get a percentage of the royalties from Gates. Otherwise,
If they join as an investor, they become a part of the company.
right.
And
So then there would be no royalties attached to it?
we would like to have Alan benefit from the royalties.
That Gates provides. That within Gates' promise. Because if Gates isn't in the picture anymore, and it's Star and Hacker,
Didn't you say Stan was willing to cut Alan in for 10 to 15%?
yeah, but that's only if Gates doesn't invest. That's only if Gates isn't in the picture at all.
That's if Gates isn't retaining.
Because if Gates is going to give a percentage of the royalties, or I think that's a good idea.
But have it better to move the board over here to the board. Right here. Might be easier. It'll reach a little better. Yeah. Yeah.
This is how I'm doing it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. But I'll tell you what is not going to be a deal. So this is either Gates Invest Allen's gets a percent of royalties, and so in that scenario, Star, Allen, and Gates profit from PowerScreen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first option. The second option is Star gives 10 to 15, I think we decided 15% of royalties. And Gates is no longer in the picture, so in that aspect, it's only Star and Hacker at profit. But what's not going to happen?
And in this instance, we would hire someone, correct?
Yes,
Or search for a separate investor.
right. So the reason why an investor is appealing is because that money is coming from outside of the company.
And they're kind of taking the responsibility away from, they're taking the responsibility and expenses away from.
So I think we should just stick with an investor. I think it would be easier to do it that way.
Okay.
I mean, if we were to hire a sales manager, then we're gonna have to find out how we're gonna pay the sales manager. And right now the company is kind of going under, so. Yeah. But what cannot happen is that Gates, and right now they don't invest, but that Gates gives royalties and Star gets nothing.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Right. So no matter what scenario we're looking at,
That's the option.
that's not an option. Star is going to be getting some profit from PowerScreen. It's staying within the company. It's just a matter of if the royalties come from Gates or if the royalties come from Star.
I think if Gates invests, aren't the royalties all coming from HackerStar as a company? Because then
He's just getting a larger portion of the revenue. An extra portion.
so Gates investment takes away the royalties.
It
Does
does.
that make sense?
Oh,
The royalties are only kind of coming in if Gates is an outsider.
okay. I didn't
And
know because in this scenario it's staying within the company, but he gets royalties on top.
if Gates invests,
Okay.
they're investing in the company, which means it's staying in the company regardless.
Okay.
And then the company is paying out royalties to Allen in this instance because Gates is now part of the company.
Okay.
And in this instance, the company is paying out royalties to Allen too. In this one, Gates is paying out the royalties,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but we would rather go with it. So in this scenario is essentially identical to this scenario,
Right.
except in the sense that
Except
we have
Alan,
to find an investor.
yeah, and Alan makes more in this scenario. Because he's getting 15% of royalties.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, or?
But here's what I'm saying: is if Gates invests,
Uh-huh.
we retain this 15%.
Right.
Their profitability now is tied to how well the product does.
Uh-huh.
So depending on how well they market, that's where they're making the money. Where in this one, they are retaining the control. They're getting all the money from the sales.
Okay.
While as in this one, they have equity in the company,
Mhm.
so
It just
the
depends how well the
company,
product does.
yeah, the
Okay.
company's profits are kind of going to be divided amongst.
Okay, I didn't know if Alan was still getting a larger percentage or not than Star and Gates.
I think if Gates invests,
Yeah.
we would retain this percentage coming from the company.
Okay.
And HackerStar will still, so in this one, HackerStar still owns PowerScreen. In this one, HackerStar still owns PowerScreen. But kind of the difference here is just that we have an investor here that also would profit. So they're like,
But they wouldn't get a percentage? Or I guess they would.
they wouldn't get like a percentage per se, they have equity in the company. So
Yeah.
any profits that we make would be split amongst us
Okay.
as an
Okay.
investor.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think kind of our first interest is to see if Gates can just, like, we're essentially using this second one
Mhm.
and just dispersing with Gates.
Okay. Right.
And then if Gates doesn't want to, then we get
Okay. So should we have this be our number one, or should we have this be our number one? Should we see what Gates has to say and then go to this
I think,
if this
yeah,
fails?
I think we try and work with Gates as an investor. We take their royalty offer off the table and offer them an investment opportunity.
Okay, I see.
If they decline that, we search for something else.
Okay, I see. I was putting these together, and you're saying if this one is there, then this kind of gets erased. Because this stays. Well, never mind. Yeah, those are like essentially the same. But if Gates invests, then okay. So Alan still gets, because I'm sorry, but in my mind, if Gates invests, then Alan gets a lower percentage of the royalties.
Because of the royalty offer that they put
Yeah.
on the table.
It was like 5%.
So here, if Gates invests,
Uh-huh.
their royalty offer goes away. They
Right.
become,
That's why I erased this.
yes.
Right.
But then we would like to still make a deal for Alan
Okay.
taking some royalties off.
Right. Okay.
So if they're an investor, their royalty offer is void. Now they're an investor in the company,
Mm-hmm.
and we would like Alan to take a certain percentage of the royalties from
Okay.
Alan.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
This goes very well.
Or purchase.
Okay. So we'll go with. So the terms will be that we're going with. Yes. Okay.
Gates invests. It becomes an investor in Hampshire. Kind of giving them an equitable share
Right.
in the company.
And with that provision, whether it's Gates or a different company, that role will be to do sales and management, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sales management and advertising.
Marketing. I think as far as they'd have a hand in the sales and management. I think retain that as either Star, if Star wants to retain most of that responsibility.
Right.
I think kind of keeping them in a marketing advertising role.
Definitely.
would probably be best.
Definitely. So then in that scenario, well, no matter what scenario, Star is going to be pretty much the, I don't want to say general manager because that's what Hacker is, but are they both general managers?
I think he has a bigger hand in kind of the day-to-day aspects of the business, kind of leading. Like Alan is still going to be in the office,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as a running thing standpoint, I think that they kind of share the power equally amongst the three of them, and that if one person raises a concern, the three of them decide, and the 2 out of 3 takes it.
Okay, yeah. So then Gates or investor would be marketing and advertising.
Mhm.
Star would be essentially managing the sales of the company. And then Hacker would solely be research and design for products.
Yeah. I think he would still, he's still like working in the office and kind of working, so just kind of managing the day-to-day operations of the office, which I think would be kind of entailed in research and development.
Right.
But any kind of big, the purchases or the discharge of employees, I think Stan should have handled.
Okay. So that's option 1, and then we also have to put the royalties in
Yes.
there. So 15% of the royalties goes to Stan.
To Alan.
I meant, yeah,
Yeah.
to Alan, sorry. Okay. And in the event that this doesn't work with Gates, then option 2 would basically be a reiteration of what we said, but Gates would be fulfilled by some other investment role, right?
Right.
Okay. Alright. Do we still need a covenant not to compete?
I don't think so. I think if we're giving Alan the freedom, time,
Mm-hmm.
and ability to work, to kind of do what he loves and create,
Right,
I don't think there's an opportunity for him to kind of do things outside of company.
right.
I mean, I think that we can,
keep it and basically
Yeah,
just
we
add a
can
number
keep it.
3.
because, I mean, let's say he does do something shady in the future,
Uh-huh.
we don't want to, not that that's in the fact pattern, but like, if he does compete down the road, I think the non-compete clause is
Right,
a good idea. But I think as of right now, if we
we don't
retain,
have to edit it or
yeah,
anything.
if we retain Hackerstar or if we retain Powertrain as the property of Hackerstar, I think the non-compete issue
Right,
solved itself.
okay. We should also put something in the description of the third-party investor of them having kind of the role to be, a checks and balances kind of thing with Star and Hacker.
Mhm.
So it's a 3-unity business.
Yeah.
But we can come to those terms later, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or add?
It's solid for us.
Okay.
We just
Yeah.
all right. Awesome. I was confused.